Hey guys, so today I want to talk about the weight loss plateau. Are you in a weight loss plateau? Have you been trying to lose weight and just stuck? Maybe you lost some weight and then are in that plateau where you're just doing the same thing and you can't move the needle. That's what I'm going to help you resolve today. I'm going to give you 3 great things to look at if that's you, okay? Now, mostly I talk to women who have autoimmune conditions because if you have an autoimmune condition and you're 15, 20, 25 pounds overweight, which often, especially if you have Hashimoto's and you've got a slow thyroid, a malfunctioning thyroid, it can be really, really hard to lose weight. Sometimes initially you make some changes and you can lose some weight, but then you get into that plateau. So that's what we're going to address today because I'm going to give you kind of the 3 top things you need to fix, look at, address in order to get past that weight loss plateau, in order to move the needle, to lose that weight. You really do want to lose that weight. I'm just going to bring that point home because if you have an autoimmune condition, even if you don't, you're still creating inflammatory cytokines if you have 15 or 20 or more to weight to lose, because what those fat cells do is they're active. They're not just sitting there hanging there like holding up your pants or, looking unsightly, especially if it's that visceral fat in the middle. That's going to be a lot harder to lose. But if you're in a weight loss plateau, I've got 3 great things for you to look at. Okay, number 1, let's start right off the bat with gut health. So there's lots of things to look at with gut health. If you have some signs of gut dysbiosis, gas, bloating, poor motility, not pooping every day, at least 1 to 3 times per day, heartburn, headaches. Headaches are a sign of poor gut health. You've got that gut-brain connection that the scientists and researchers have been doing. Lots of research has come out about that gut-brain connection. So you really want to get that gut in tip-top shape. Another reason is your gut is partly responsible for producing those neurotransmitters that help with your metabolism, having a metabolism that works at its best. That's why people are on Ozempic. They give themselves the peptides that help with that metabolism, that GLP-1. Not going to talk too much about Ozempic and Wegovy and all that stuff, but that is sort of giving your body GLP-1, which it already produces. So that is sort of a help. So that can help. I'm not against that as a temporary fix to this problem, because what's happening maybe is that your body's not producing enough GLP-1. Your body, if you have some gut dysbiosis, if you have IBS, if you have celiac, if you have food intolerances. So in my work, I have often done food intolerances. In fact, I'm thinking of one of my clients, Lauren, who we got into a weight loss plateau. I was working with her. She lost about 10 pounds. Her joint pain was down. She was feeling a lot more energetic. The fatigue, she actually had Hashimoto's and the fatigue was better, but we got into a month of no weight loss. And we did a food intolerance test and realized that zucchini, eggs, avocado, cantaloupe, seemingly healthy foods, by doing this food intolerance test, seemingly healthy foods were creating inflammation in her gut. And we couldn't get past, no matter how many probiotics we gave her, we couldn't get past sort of that bloated. And we finally, after we taking out the obvious things like gluten and dairy and soy and sugar, but some of these highly inflammatory, addictive foods, if you remove those and you say to me, I'm eating really healthy, I'm still gassy and bloated, it's time to look at some food intolerances that you might have. You could certainly go to your allergist, but often with an allergy, you already know that you're allergic to something because you're running to the toilet or you're breaking out in hives. So with food allergies, there's sort of obvious immediate signs, anaphylactic shock. Food intolerances are the foods that are causing kind of an overactive and misdirective immune response. And that could be causing you to have leaky gut, which just means that you got a lot of inflammation in that GI and your tight junctures in your small intestine that are supposed to be tight junctures are kind of breaking down and loosening, which means that food particles, and they're not real food particles, they're like larger molecules than your body recognizes, rises and your body attacks that. Causes inflammation all over the body. It'll cause confusion all over the body and cause joint pain. It will also sometimes inhibit weight loss. It'll also cause cravings. So you'll have a really hard time losing weight because you'll have cravings because you might have some vitamin and mineral deficiency because you're not absorbing the nutrients into your bloodstream because your food is not actually breaking down the way it's supposed to. So I'm not going to go much further into it, but just to say that my number one thing to do is make sure that you are working with somebody who is working on recognizing the signs of gut dysbiosis. So, somebody like me or anybody else in the functional medicine area, holistic medicine area who's going to look at that and not just hand you Prevacid. I actually have a really cool tool that is totally for free that you can use. If you click the link below here, I have a gut check quiz that can be very, very helpful, and it's totally free. And you'll answer some questions and it's basically a checklist, and it'll give you a result. And I've had a lot of great feedback from people, and it'll give you some tips on what you can do to improve your gut microbiome. Some people call it a starter kit. I just call it a checklist, and it's below there. If you like what you're hearing, also, as long as you're looking below this video, click the like button and like this video because it helps the YouTube algorithm send it out to people who also want to hear about weight loss plateaus. Also subscribe, because if you hit the subscribe button, you will receive my videos, a notification, because I come out with new videos every week, and that way I'll be sort of in your little circle and you'll, find out all the cool information that I offer here for free. Okay, so tip number 2 on weight loss plateau. So how are you sleeping and what is your stress? So this is a really, really important part of weight loss. And if you are in a high stress situation, it can be very tough to lose weight. I'm going to tell you why. So it has to do with hormone imbalances. One of your hormones is called cortisol. And if cortisol is high and you're not sleeping, your blood sugar is also high, which is a clue into what I'm going to tell you about tip number 3. So tip number 2 and 3 both has to do with hormones. Tip number 2 is sleep and stress. So you want to make sure that your sleep hygiene is in order so that you are getting, if you are a woman over 45, sleep becomes a challenge, and we kind of have to get back to basics, making sure that we are getting up in the morning and getting some natural sunlight. So your best night's sleep actually starts in the morning when you wake up. So you want to wake up at the same time every day. You want to go to bed at the same time every day. And when you wake up in the morning, you want to get that outside sunlight with no sunglasses. That will stimulate cortisol to be up, and you're high in the morning when it's supposed to be, when you want to be awake, not over caffeinating. So no caffeine after 12 or so. If you're caffeinating all day because you're tired and fatigued, especially my ladies who have autoimmune conditions, I know fatigue can be a problem. But you want to get that natural cortisol ebb and flow in your body going how it's supposed to go, because your body knows what to do. You just kind of need to give it the tools to do it. And so getting outside in the morning in sunlight can be very, very helpful. And then at the end of the day, the cortisol is supposed to, go down in the morning. And you can also see your, functional medicine doctor or health practitioner, and they can do tests that can tell when your cortisol is rising and when it's, waning. At the end of the day, it should be lowering. And then melatonin goes up so that you can fall asleep. I usually tell people, and again, I'm not a doctor. I only give this advice for conversational and educational purposes only. That's my disclaimer. I'm not giving medical advice. I'm not telling anybody not to take their medication. I always refer you to your doctor anytime you make any changes in your nutrition. So when it comes to sleep, though, you really want to make sure you wake up at the same time, go to bed at the same time, and make sure that you're sleeping, I would say 7-8 hours in your bed. You're not going to be maybe sleeping the entire time. When you're older, you have kind of maybe a lighter sleep. That's okay, but you will not lose weight if cortisol is up too high at the wrong time of the day, or if you have too much cortisol all the time. So it is important to get that test. And the test is not just a single blood test one time a day. This is pro tip. You need to take the cortisol test that tests your cortisol throughout the day. And oftentimes that's like peeing on a stick like 5 times a day. And it'll tell, it'll give you the information about when your cortisol is high and low and all that. And it should be high at the right time of the day and low at the end of the day. That's one piece of it. You can help that by doing some of the lifestyle changes. Exercising certainly helps your cortisol be up, in the middle of the day and then down at the end of the day. Exercise also is a great stress reliever. So you want to, as part of, working on sleep, you want to work on stress and managing that stress. And exercise is a big piece of that. So when we talk about weight loss plateaus, it's not about counting calories and it's not about eating less and exercising more. That's old science. It's not about how many calories you're intaking. You want to get away from that model. We're not going to talk about that in a weight loss plateau this time, but certainly I hope that you are not counting calories in order to lose weight. You really need to make sure that you're having enough protein. But I don't want to digress into that, although that is one of my tips. Tip number 3 is get these 3 tests. These 3 tests are going to inform you about how your metabolism is running. And that way you can take action in order to improve your metabolism. Yes, your metabolism can be improved. And if you're in a weight loss plateau, your metabolism might be stalled. Okay, so test number 1, these are all tests the doctor can do. Test number 1, which is usually done, is your fasting glucose. Write this down, fasting glucose. Fasting glucose is usually taken in the morning and you're not eating in the morning, and it'll tell you what number it is. It should be below 100. It really should be below 90, but I know that the doctor is going to tell you below 100. If you're between 90 and 100, your metabolism is not probably at tip-top shape. Okay. You really should be around 90, between 80 and 90. I know that the doctor will come back and say anything under 100. And I love doctors. I am not telling you not to listen to the doctor. But if you really want to know if your metabolism is working at tip-top shape and not just medium, you really want to be below 90 at that fasting insulin consistently. Test number 2 is your A1C. Another test that if you're 15 or 20 pounds overweight, or if you're over 40 or over 50, they usually do A1C. And that is, just to explain that's sort of your batting average of what your glucose is, what your average glucose is. And let me back up because maybe people don't know what glucose is. So the glucose is sort of the sugar or what your body uses as energy that's surrounding that red blood cell. So they take a blood test and it'll tell you, the test of fasting will tell you how much glucose is around the red blood cell right at that very moment. And it's only a moment in time. The A1C is an average, not of your fasting, but of your total glucose, generally what's sort of around your red blood cell all the time. Now that number is going to look like 5.4, 5.5. Right now, the doctors are telling you that if it's 5.7 or above, you're pre-diabetic. And if you're in the 6.0 or more, you're diabetic. So they might say to you, let's watch it. If you're 5.7, oh, you're pre-diabetic. So this is where you really want to ask for this next test that I'm going to tell you about, test number 3, which is fasting insulin, not to be confused with fasting glucose. Fasting insulin, that is going to tell you how much of the hormone insulin is being jutted out from your, yes, that's a medical term. No, it's being released from your pancreas. And that hormone insulin is your fat storing hormone. That is not a medical term, but that hormone insulin is going to actually, one of its jobs is to tell your body, are you storing fat or are you burning fat? Now we burn glucose, right? As fuel. You know that you burn sugar. You also want to burn your fat as fuel. That's called metabolically flexible. This is a really important test because I personally don't like to see people above a 6. The doctors and the labs who set the reference ranges will tell you that you can be anywhere from 2 to 25. I'm going to push up against that. If you're anywhere above 10, you are going to be in a weight loss plateau. The good news, if you're below 10, is it can easily be reversed. And by making some nutritional changes, you should be able to lose weight. Now, those nutritional changes are different, for everybody. But if you're 6 or above, especially if you're in the teens, you're going to have a really hard time losing weight because any amount of calories that you put in, I loathe to use the word calories, but any food that's going to be coming in, that insulin is going to tell your body to store that as fat. So the thing to work on is your metabolism. So if I were to wrap up, tip number 3, those 3 tests, fasting glucose, A1C, those first two are done automatically. You're going to have to push back on the fasting insulin, but the fasting insulin is going to be the key to letting you know how your metabolism is running and how easily you should be able to lose weight. And I say should be able to because there's other factors that go into weight loss and weight loss plateau. But all of the three things I just talked about, these three tips, gut health and sleep and stress and finding out those numbers are going to be really good information for you to know what to do and put an action plan into place to get out of that weight loss plateau. So if this was helpful, please click the like button and the subscribe button. And if you're worried about your gut dysbiosis at all, if you have any kind of autoimmune condition, fill out the gut checklist and that will give you a little bit of a range of how healthy your gut is. Really good information. Okay, thanks guys. I hope that was helpful.